Hey guys, I'm Brianna, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing something I haven't done on my channel yet, and I'm doing my top 10 books of 2018. So I wanted to say Happy New Year's to you guys. It's finally 2019. I'm so excited to start this year. I feel like there's going to be a ton of really fun things I'm going to do and new things. And I did get a haircut, so kind of like new hair, new me, new year, new me, you know, that's the vibe that I'm going for. But yeah, so I wanted to show you guys the top books that I personally read in 2018, and I'll describe a little bit about each book and why they're my top books of 2018. So the first book I have here is Balance by Lucia Franco. I read this book earlier in the year, I think March, I believe. I ended up not reading it, but I'm actually rereading it. That's why there's a bookmark in it. And there's just so many things I missed the first time around that I read it, and I really enjoyed this. This is a gymnastics romance book. It's about a gymnast who falls for her coach, and it's all about that. And Lucia Franco's writing I really love, and I do have Execution, which is up here. You don't see it on my shelf, but I do have Execution, and I want to reread Balance before I read Execution, but I loved it so far. I'm very excited for Release and Dismount to come out, which are books 3 and 4, so hopefully soon, but there's Balance. Then we have King by T.M. Frazier. I can't believe I only read this book this year. This book was really great. It was, I mean, for me it was a fun read. I don't know if it's necessarily fun in general. It's a darker book. It's a motorcycle romance, and I just really love this book. This follows a main character named Doe who just doesn't remember where she is. She kind of wakes up and she's like, where am I? Who am I? And that's why they call her Doe, like Jane Doe. And then you have King, who is like, I think he's the leader. He's like under the leader of the motorcycle gang, and I love him. I love T.M. Frazier's books, and I just purchased her new trilogy, the Perversion trilogy. I just picked up the first book, so hopefully I'll get that from Amazon pretty soon, and I'm gonna start reading it, but I just really love this book. If you guys know me, I'm a huge dark romance and a huge motorcycle romance person. And then, how could I not add this book in here? And that's The Darkest Star by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I do have a review up of this book. I loved it so much. I got an ARC and it's signed. I showed it to you guys in the review, but I'll show it again. I love JLA. She's one of my favorite authors right beside Tilly Cole, and she's just a phenomenal writer. Anything she writes I love. This book is no exception. This is a continuation of the Lux series, and it follows aliens, so the Luxon species, and then kind of, it's a hybrid crossbreed kind of. I don't want to get too into it because it is a spoiler, but you have the Luxon, the Origin, and the, why can't I remember? And it's the Shadow ones. Starts with an A, I think. I can't remember. But I really love this book. This is a YA novel. This is the first book in a new series. And the second book is coming out in October. So I do have to wait a little bit. But she is like banging out those books. She has so many releases coming up. And I'm very excited. But I loved this book. And this was a great book in 2018. Then I just dropped a book. Then this was another one that I read towards the beginning of the year. And that's Cole by Tijan. I had to put this on my list because I really love this book. Tijan's writing is a little different for my taste, and I feel like she does leave a lot of plot holes, but I just loved Cole as a character. This is a mafia romance, very dark. It's very different compared to the Carter Reed series. This Cole is a character that technically comes from Carter Reed. Like, it's like a whole big issue, like it's weird how she did it, but I loved it. He was just so mysterious at first, and I didn't get him until later, and then you get the whole background of him, and I just absolutely loved it. This was a great novel, and I'm so excited that I read this book. Then I have a mass market paperback, and I love this book more than I expected to love it, and that is When Ascot Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare. I loved everything about this book. I loved the historical romance aspect. I loved Tessa Dare's writing. Her writing was phenomenal. I loved the characters. this book did keep me guessing, and just like the cover is beautiful. But if you guys don't know, I love Scotland. I do want to go there someday, hopefully. I love Outlander. I love the history behind the country, the beautiful Highlands, the countryside, Edinburgh, and all of that. But this book is just so good. I loved it so much. It kind of took me out of a book slump when I read it, and I don't really read historical romances that much, but I'm trying to get into them, especially if it has to do with Scotland or fantasy. I think that is just great together, and this book is so good. I definitely recommend it to you guys. It was just a nice breather from the typical romance and the typical fantasy that I normally read, because this is just so it's like a different genre, but I definitely recommend it. I love this book. Then we have another one of my favorites, which I read this summer. I read this actually during the beach. This was one of my beach reads, and that's The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This book was so hyped up for like 2 months before I was like, you know what, let me pick it up and give it a shot. And it blew my mind away. This follows a woman who has Asperger's, and she has high-functioning autism. And her parents make this comment about how they want grandkids soon, so she wants to seriously start dating. So she ends up hiring this escort to just like teach her how to date and how to do that, and then they end up falling in love. But I just really loved it because just how they portrayed Asperger's was so true to how it really is. So I loved that. I think his name's Michael. I loved Michael. He like really knew his stuff, and it was just, Stella and Michael honestly are one of my favorite new book couples for 2018. I just really, really enjoyed this book. It's a great summer read. You can read it whenever, but I read it during the summer, and I love that I read it during the summer, but I definitely recommend it. It's really like, it's a heartwarming novel, but it's also, it just like kind of opens up your mind a little bit, just like The Hate You Give. So yeah. So oh, I forgot, so I don't have The Hate You Give with me. It's at college right now, but that is book number 11. There's 11 books I loved, but that book I read this year, and I absolutely loved it. I read it during the summertime because it was my required read. The movie was just as great, and I felt like it really opened my mind to a lot of things that I normally wouldn't think about that seriously, but I totally 100% recommend that book, and I'm definitely going to read more of Angie Thomas in the future. Then we have another book I read this summer, and I'm kind of late to this whole Mariana Zapata trope fandom thing, and that's Cody by Mariana Zapata. This book was phenomenal, and it's such a slow burn romance, and it kills you because it's a slow burn romance, and those are the books that like you love them so much but you hate them because the romance doesn't happen till like the last 50 pages. But this was phenomenal. I loved both characters. I just loved Cody. He was such like a true individual, if that makes sense. Like, he is very realistic character, and I just fell in love with this book. This is definitely going to be up there on one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It's just so good, and I love Mariana Zapata's writing. Again, I just ordered another book by her, so hopefully that comes soon. I'm late to reading her stuff, but I'm here. I'm joining the gang that loves her. If you love slow burn, if you love realistic relationships, read her. But this is a soccer book, and you have Sal, who is a professional soccer player, and then Cody, who comes in as her coach, and there's a whole big thing. She, like, loved Cody, like, when she was little, Cody was playing professional soccer, so she loved him, but then all of a sudden, I think he said something to her, and it kind of, like, erased that love for him, and she just went from, like, she did not respect him anymore, and he became her coach, so it was, like, a whole big thing. But I love this book. I'm definitely going to give it a reread soon. If I don't read it over break, I'm bringing it back to college with me because I need some Rain or Cody in my life because this book was great. Then this was, again, earlier in the year, and that's Broken Beautiful Hearts by Cami Garcia. This book is so realistic for me personally because it had some experiences that I went through, so I, like, connected 100% with the main character. It has Peyton, and Peyton has a knee injury after after a party one night, she ends up getting a knee injury, but she's like a soccer player, high school soccer player. She's going to college. She's getting scholarships for soccer, but this whole knee injury changes that, and she ends up moving to Tennessee, I believe it is. I think she goes to Tennessee, and she ends up staying with her uncle and her cousins and kind of having to adjust to life there, and then she ends up falling in love there. This is a YA novel, but this is phenomenal, and I will definitely be reading this again soon because I just connected so well with this, and I love Cami Garcia's romances because I feel like they are very true to what a romance should be, and this was definitely more adult, like new adults, like minus college age, so they're like seniors, I think, but I definitely recommend this book. And then we have a controversial book that people either love or they don't love, but I loved this book, and that is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I just finished reading it. This book is super heavy. This will be in my wrap-up of what I read over my winter break from school. I absolutely love this conclusion to the series. I'm gonna miss this series dearly. There are some things that I didn't like, but overall, I just really loved it. I feel like it tied it together perfectly. The one complaint that I did have was I felt like there weren't as many deaths as I was expecting. Like, not that it makes me mad that there weren't, but I felt like some of the main characters should have died. Personally, because I felt like it was too happy of an ending. But overall, I really, really loved this book. I loved that it connected to Rhysand and Feyre from the A Court of Mist and Fury series, like ACOTAR. I just really, really loved it. I love Selena. I love how you could see the growth of everything. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I hope you guys enjoy it too. And I do acknowledge there are plot points that are wrong. There's some spelling issues. This series isn't perfect, and I know a lot of people have problems with it because it is overhyped, but personally for me and my reading taste, I did love this series. I love this book, and it will definitely have a big place in my heart for me. And then the last book of 2018, which I can't believe I've only read this year. Well, technically last year because it's 2019 already. But it's Souls Unfractured by Tilly Cole. This will forever be my favorite novel. I don't think anything can pass this as of right now, but I love this book. This is book 3 of the Hades Hangman series. This is an adult novel. It's a dark romance. It's just so dark, like super dark. Like, if you think Penelope Douglas is dark, Tilly Cole's darker. You think T.M. Fraser's dark? Tilly Cole's darker. Like, she's a phenomenal author, and I just love this book. It follows Flame and Maddie's story, so I can't really say too much about it, but I did review it, even though it's book 3 in the series. I love this book, so yes, so that's it. So those are my top 10 and 11 with The Hate You Give books that I read in 2018. I had a great reading year, I meant. My goal was 130 books, but I actually surpassed that by a lot. I ended up reading 217 books in 2018. Some of them were ebooks, some of them were regular books or library books, and I did a phenomenal job this year. So if you guys were wondering how much I normally read in a year, I guess for looking at 2018, I read 217 books. My goal for 2019 as of right now, I put 175 just because, one, I know I'm going to read a ton of books over the summer because my summer is longer now. I have off the first week of May all the way till the second to last week of August. So I have like a huge summer. Plus I go on vacation. I'm going to Florida this year. So I have like a humongous summer to read. I don't know if I'm going to read too much when I get back to college. Again, I read kind of sporadically. I read about 20 books per semester, if I've been saying that. That's what I've been finding. So yeah, so my goal is 175. Again, I hope to pass 217 like I did this year. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, I hope you guys had a great 2018 and you're very excited for 2019. Leave down below your favorite book that you read this year, and I'll see you guys later.